It's good to see you today.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess this being the first SEC weekend, I was just wondering if your mind doesn't slip back to last year when y'all guys were getting ready to play that first series and y'all had to turn around at Brunswick. Is that part at all even thought about, or just when I bring it up here just now, you're thinking about it, thinking about it again?
Yeah, it's not hard to um, think about it just because, it was so anticipated. Number one against number two. We're on the bus. We're heading to Florida, and the team that we had it certainly comes to mind. And I get reminded about it a lot. I see people around town that nowadays you don't see people as often. So you haven't seen someone in a while. They'll bring up last year, and it just is what it is. But we've turned the page, and our players have. But yeah, it's hard not to think about it from time to time.
But how has your perspective to change as a coach now, having gone through that and now moving ahead?
Well, I just say what we're just very thankful to be able to play. And 2 months ago, I didn't think there was going to be any way that we would be close to normal. And whether it's conference only or 4 game weekends, shortened schedule, we didn't know. But just to be able to be pretty close to normal, we're just grateful. And I know our kids are excited to be out there playing, and I know our fans are excited to be able to watch, even though we can't get everybody in there. We're our fans are excited that we're playing, and they've been very supportive.
And Luke, I know, is getting to start tomorrow. That just a matter of CJ not being healthy yet, or is it Luke kind of earned this spot right now?
A little bit of both. CJ still battling arm soreness. He's been throwing all week, and he's just not quite ready. And we don't know when he's going to be ready. It's going to be kind of week to week, and just really how he feels. But Luke has thrown the ball well, and he's a competitor. And when you look at Ryan Webb and Jonathan Cannon, those guys are coming back from shutdowns, and we're building up their pitch counts. And when you're building up guys' pitch counts, you don't want to move them up a day. So we're just keeping them those same days, Saturday and Sunday, just really because of that. And we may just end up sticking with it and just keep them on those days, because there are, weekends when we're going to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And who knows, maybe when we do that and we have to bump them up a day, we stay there. And then we all of a sudden we put Luke back to the Sunday game or someone else. So, but as of right now, I think we're going to stay Saturday, Sunday with Webb and Cannon.
Is Ryan still on the pitch count right now?
Ryan's good to go. The leash is off. He's ready to go. He was chomping at the bit last week to be off of it, but yeah, he was at 82 last week, so he's up to 100. And 100's it's not the end all say all, but if you're at 100 in the fifth inning, you need to come out. You've thrown too much, and if you're at 100 going into the ninth, then you've been pretty comfortable. So it's really the workload, not necessarily the pitch count. But yeah, he can go 100 and 100 plus if he needs to.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to ask you about Corey Collins. He's been one of you guys' best hitters, through the first month or so of the season. As far as his maturity goes at the plate, in that mindset as a freshman, just what have you seen in him in terms of, just being a really mature hitter, through his first, 15 college games or whatever it is?
Well, if you've met Corey or talked to Corey or just even seen Corey, he's mature at everything he does. He looks like a 30-year-old, and he talks like one too. So, and that's how he hits. He's got a slow heartbeat. He doesn't get too excited. He did have a rough patch 2 weekends ago where he struck out, consecutive times, but he came back the next day and hit a home run and hit a double, and he was ready to go. So, yeah, he is mature beyond his years, physically and mentally, and he's going to be in the middle of that order for the years to come.
And just his ability to make adjustments, from game to game, at bat to at bat. I mean, how, I guess, just rare and special is that to see, in a collegiate freshman?
It is very rare, and people have tried to do everything. They've pitched around him. They've thrown 3-2 breaking balls. They've tried to intentionally walked him, and here he is leading our team in a lot of categories. So he is a very mature hitter. He's very gifted. He's very strong and physical, and has a very good mental approach at the plate too. You put all those things together, it gives you a good hitter.
Thank you.
Then we'll go Drew Hubbard and then Chip Towers.
Hey, Coach, just a couple of questions about, we talked about recruiting last week. So when you were at Kent State, did you have the same luxury of having so many players from in-state and on your roster?
We did. We actually stuck with Ohio and Western Pennsylvania. When you look at our 2012 roster, we had one junior college player. and we had all players from either Ohio or Western PA. I think we had maybe 8 or 9 kids from Western PA, and the rest of the kids were Ohio. We recruited close to home, and we recruited high school kids, and we developed them. And that 2012 team that went to Omaha had a bunch of juniors and seniors on it, and guys that had been in regionals 3 consecutive years. That was our 4th year in a row going to a regional. So experienced team. So that's the formula for me is to get high school kids, to develop them, to let them mature. And obviously you're going to get a transfer, you're going to get a JUCO player from time to time, but in general, I really like to see those freshmen turn into sophomores and juniors and even seniors.
And how do you keep track of these guys during the high school season, since you guys are playing and you're not able to go to games like you do in summer ball or stuff like that?
I'm on social media way too much. That's how. Right now that's what you're doing. You're looking at Twitter and Instagram, and my son is a sophomore in high school, so he tells me, "Hey, Dad, you know this kid," and so he's kind of helping me out, keeping track. But Coach Daly and Coach Kenny do the same thing. We hear from scouts, we hear from high school coaches, we hear from summer coaches. We just can't see them in person, so we're just watching a lot of video. It's probably very similar to what football does in season. Football watches a lot of video because they can't go out and watch guys as much as we do. So right now we're relegated to watching just a ton of video.
Thank you.
Coach, you touched on this a little bit. I was going to ask you about, Cannon being Sunday as opposed to you think of him as a Friday night starter. That makes perfect sense. But, that's a big stage for Luke. And if you tell me a little bit about him and your pitching in general, I mean, I see a lot of Ks, a lot of strikeouts. How have you felt? Because obviously you're depending a lot on this young group of arms.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about them because they've got experience. If Webb and Cannon and Michael Polk were all healthy from day one, then these freshmen wouldn't have as much experience underneath their belt. But we've gone the last 16 games and we've thrown 8 freshmen, and those guys have done really well, and we've put them in tough situations. So they're a little bit more experienced than what they normally would be. And now with those guys back, it was kind of the perfect scenario is what we hoped. And we hoped we could win a whole lot more than we lost and be in pretty good spot going into the league, but with guys with experience. And just so happened that happened with our position players too. And Tate and McAllister and Buddy Floyd, those guys all went down together. And next thing you know, Cam Guidry's out there playing. So we've developed a lot of depth at a lot of different positions going into the league.
And what are they facing in this Tennessee lineup?
A really good veteran team. I mean, they are an older team. Athletic. They like to put pressure on you. They love to run. They love to bunt. They've got a couple guys that can hit for a lot of power, and they play with a lot of confidence and swagger. And their pitching staff, they got some big time arms. So it is going to be a challenge. They're a legitimate top 10 team, and we're going to have to play really well this weekend to win this series.
Thank you.
Then we'll go to William and Davis.
Hey, Coach. A little bit of a different question for you, but I've been looking at the demographics of this team and how it compares with, college baseball in general, particularly the SEC. We see more athletes from communities typically underrepresented in SEC baseball in your last 2 recruiting classes, and I'm wondering if that's been an intentional effort to build more diversity in the program. And could you take me through any conversations you've had maybe with your staff or administration or players to that effect?
We try to recruit good kids and good players, and we've always recruited like that. We've just lost kids in the draft, and we've lost kids to other schools. So it just so happens that we've been able to keep these kids. So no, we try to find good players that are good kids and are good students, and we've got a bunch of those on our club.
And Coach, can I ask, how do you think increased diversity on baseball rosters in general can help you and help the culture of college baseball in terms of inclusivity?
Well, you know what? If you're watching a game and you see somebody that looks like you, it makes you feel like you can be a part of that. And I think that's a big deal. And I think that's what's lacking in baseball a little bit. You watch a major league game that's been talked about for the last 10, 15 years, that the lack of diversity in Major League Baseball. And so I think it's a good thing. And I think you're going to continue to see that because you're seeing more and more players starting to come up through college baseball and in the minor leagues and get drafted. And I think it's a great thing. So if you're watching at home and you see someone that looks like you and you say, you know what, I think I can do that too. I think that's a big deal.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach, it seemed like you guys were aggressive on the base pass on Sunday. Was that a coincidence, or is that something that you're trying to establish before conference play?
A little bit of both. We're trying to be a little bit more aggressive, and our offense wasn't necessarily clicking early in those games. We were trying to create some offense. We felt like that we could run a little bit on their staff and on the catcher. So it just kind of came that way. We're going to try when we get a chance. We're going to try to hit and run. We're going to try to put some pressure on defenses. But yeah, we did run a little bit more last weekend.
All right, and then we'll finish up with Palmer and Chris Gilmore.
Yeah, Coach, with Luke making the start opening weekend of SEC play, what's your message to him? Because, obviously it seems like the nerves might be amped up a little bit with the league play starting.
Not really any new message. I mean, just go get him. I mean, he's ready. I mean, he's a kid that is very tough. He's very competitive. He's a really good position player as well. And he's just a baseball player. So he comes from a baseball family. His dad was a professional player. His uncle was a professional player. He's been around it all his life. So he's ready to go. Yeah, it's a lot to ask a freshman to put him on Friday night opening weekend. But you know what? If anybody can handle it, Luke Wagner can.
And then I guess, how much do you see this, your team see this as an opportunity to kind of showcase what y'all are for this year? Because I know it seems like, the rankings are all over the place for you all, when it comes to the perception of this team.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shoulder shrugging when it comes to us. They just don't know yet. There's a lot to like, but now that we're going to see 10 straight weekends of the SEC and Clemson and Georgia Tech in the midweek, and I think a lot of questions will be answered. And so, I think we've passed our tests so far, but the biggest test lies ahead. So those rankings and polls, they work themselves out by the end of the year. You want to be obviously in the top 20, top 10. But right now it's not that big a deal. There's a few that really like us, and there's a few that don't know who we are. So we've got to make sure that, we go out there and play well, and those rankings will take care of themselves.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. And then you kind of touched on it a little bit throughout how going back to Florida last year, you guys didn't even really get conference play started. You guys got a lot of young kids who haven't seen this conference before. What do you tell them, and kind of what is it about the SEC that kind of just gets things ramped up a little bit?
I always use the analogy of the volume. The volume's going to be turned up. The intensity gets turned up. Everything it means more. I mean, that's what we talk about in our league, but it truly does. It's just a little bit more. So our guys will be ready to go. Tennessee's going to bring a lot of intensity and emotion, and that'll bring it out in our guys as well. So should be spirited, should be fun, but you don't have to do a lot of pep talks to get guys going. They know what this is all about, and this is why they came to the University of Georgia.
All right. Anything else for Coach?
I got one quick question for you, Coach.
Yeah.
As far as Parks Harbor goes, is he pretty much cemented that third base job now? Is it still kind of up in the air with him some?
Well, we really like him, and we need to get those at bats going. And he missed those first 3 weeks with the wrist injury, and he's healthy now. And I think we've all seen what he can do. And he brings a lot of power, and he's played well defensively. So as of right now, I don't think anything's in cement. But yeah, he's going to play third base for the time being right now, and we've got some options that we can move around. But we'd love Parks Harbor to be our third baseman of the future.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks, guys.